here.
It's a beautiful Saturday morning. And it's 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It must be time for This Week in Waukesha, September 9th, 2022. Special good morning to Andy and Mary Alice Karinko, who are here at the stand. Big supporters of South Nation. And speaking of South Nation, I have a very special guest today. This is the Waukesha South Blackshirts offensive coordinator and new varsity baseball coach, John Stillman. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Doing very well. Thanks for inviting me here.
Yeah, appreciate you getting up early to be here, but I understand you have a commitment at 9 o'clock, so you'll have to leave the show early. What's going on at 9?
I do. My son is an 8th grader, and he's playing football game up at the high school. So they're 1-0, trying to make it 2-0.
So after you're done watching this show, and I know how loyal my listeners are, it's okay if you leave a few minutes early so you can watch John's son play along with. Doesn't Coach Wiltz's son play in the team too?
He does. Cooper's a fullback linebacker guy. My son is an outside linebacker receiver.
So, and who are they playing?
Lake Geneva Badger this morning.
Lake Geneva Badger. So yeah, it should be an exciting turnout. So, Andy, Mary, any questions for John? I kind of caught him on the spot here. I love it. Andy and Mary are my neighbors in Banting Park, and their boys play football. They played football together, and now basketball, and hopefully baseball next year, depending on what Coach Stillman decides. No pressure, but I know we got some talented kids there from Empire Drive.
Always have.
Yeah,
that's always a hotbed, Banting area.
Yeah. So now switching gears, current events. You're the offensive coordinator for South, and it's been a tough couple games after a great start, undefeated 2-0, probably for the first time in many years.
But, it was actually 9 years.
First time in 9 years they were undefeated. But again, playing in the toughest conference in the state against very deep teams and larger school districts, we had another tough loss to what many believe will be the state champion this year, McGuanago. So
they're very good. They're deep, they're big, they're strong, they're fast, and if nothing else, it showed what living in the weight room and really buying into the offseason can do for a team. And I hope that we look over to their side of the field and say, you know what, we could do that. We could be that, but we have to buy in. And it has nothing to do with the heart or the effort of our kids. It's just I told them, I said, their better is better than our better right now.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, you talk about buying, though. I know one thing in the Wiltz era, there has been a big, perhaps a bigger emphasis on the weight training and the strength and conditioning. And we saw a lot of that during last year. In fact, I know the Krinko's boy and our boy, a lot of 6 o'clock wake ups to get him there at 6 o'clock for weight training.
Yeah.
And the rule was if you're playing a winter sport, you got to figure out how to get that weight training. And initially, we weren't really happy with that. Wanted to focus on the winter sport, but it paid dividends. I know our son was actually did a lot for his schoolwork and did a lot for his basketball, and it made him more focused.
Those workouts, whether you're at 6 a.m. or 3 p.m, just like you said, I'm a firm believer that you don't have to be in the weight room for 2.5 hours to get the benefit of it. If you're in there for 45 minutes, it's 45 minutes more than if you did nothing.
Yeah.
And they have to treat it that way. And like you said, the toughest conference in the state in pretty much any sport.
Sure.
They're doing it. And just because we're smaller in population doesn't give us that excuse to say, well, it doesn't matter. No, we're going to compete.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, at a smaller team numbers-wise, and unfortunately, those numbers have gone down significantly in the last because of some injuries.
Mm-hmm. We're banged up.
Yeah. And then next week, we're playing Kettle Moraine, who crushed Oconomowoc 38-3 last night after Oconomowoc had beaten us 41-7. The game closer than the score, I might add. It was 21-7 at halftime. And so what's your plan? How do we motivate the young men to prepare for and it's at Kettle Moraine too. Never a friendly house for us.
It's at least I feel, and I try to impress upon them to tune out the noise of anything that's happening outside of our room. yes, we have a challenge, and every week is a challenge. I don't care who you play in, like you said, in that league.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's the toughest in the state. And we're not gonna cry. Sure. We're not going to make excuses. But we'll be there, and we won't be late.
Yeah. And now, John, there's so many great stories about Waukesha, and one of them is the fact that we've got a lot of former South alumni coming back, coaching and teaching. I was at Bo Richter's house recently, and he's got that nice shrine to himself in the basement. But hey, God love him because he accomplished a lot in high school and college himself. As did you. You're for sure on the Wall of Fame. I know you were honored at halftime last year. You were a star player for South. And what position were you in high school?
I played outside linebacker, which was basically in our defense a glorified strong safety.
Okay, fantastic.
I caught a lot of interceptions in self-defense.
Love it.
And that's where you see my name up on that board.
And we talked about, there was a great baseball program you were part of when you played. Mm-hmm. If you talk about it again.
Yeah, well, South back in the 80s, I graduated in 87, but so my sophomore year of high school baseball was 1985, and at that point it was still Legion ball. There was no Waukesha South, there was no Waukesha North high school team, and so we played with North South Memorial guys before there was a West, and it wasn't until my junior year that we actually had our own high school team, and we are actually very, very good. We had a lot of senior leadership, and could have and should have done a little bit better, but that's another story.
You made the playoffs and winning record, and you mentioned, and I guess it says your senior year is maybe you and one other senior, and then the rest of the starters were sophomores.
Yeah, we took our lumps that year. It was Mark Wisner and I as a senior, and then there were 7 sophomores that pretty much started. And
Mark Wisner also from Banting Park.
That's right.
Love it.
We actually won a playoff game against a team we really shouldn't have, and that made our year. So take 7th in the league, but knock off the first place team in the playoffs. So
that's great. And you mentioned 2 years later, those sophomores,
they made it to state.
Yeah.
They made it to state, I think, in 88 or 89.
Wow. And how far did they go?
I think they lost their first game. I don't think they got to the championship game. I'm not sure. I think they lost their first game, but still, to go from 7th place in the league to the top 8 in the state, that's a pretty good deal.
Sure. That's terrific. So hang on, what's that? Calvin, how are we doing on time? 5 minutes. Great. So Johnny had a couple of questions. It kind of leads into mind is like, how do you bridge that gap from those glory days from when you were playing to reinstilling that culture and that tradition in the present day where after, a pretty long period of losing seasons, football and basketball, and in basketball is kind of, they've gotten over that hump for sure. And looking forward to this season. How do you instill that as an alumnus?
Well, first of all, I don't think they take too much stock in the fact that I played 30 plus years ago. I think that's unfortunately, and that's fine. I don't think that has a lot to do with it. The situation and the environment was a lot different back in the 80s when in Waukesha, when there was no Waukesha West. Waukesha South and Waukesha North were extremely competitive in everything. And unfortunately, with the addition of West, the talent pool in each school got a little diluted, and it is what it is. But to answer your question, all I can try to get them to feel is a pride in not only themselves but the people next to them, and not to sound cliche, but they're playing for the name on their shirts, not on the front of their shirts, not the names on the back. And if we can get them to feel that way, then I think we've done our job.
So you got to watch that movie Miracle and see what Coach Herb Brooks did, as played by Kirk Douglas.
That locker room speech is ingrained in me. There's a lot of
same here,
different speeches and coaches that come out in me all the time.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, me too. So we'll have to talk about all the right moves during the commercial. But,
I don't know about that, Coach, but
the dynamic was similar. That this was kind of more the blue collar school, the most diverse team, playing against the kind of the blue bloods, if you will, of the Classic 8, and then you're also battling with the open recruitment, enrollment.
That's a game
the other
changer.
Killer. Yeah. So that leads to Johnny's question: is what can we do to recruit new players to attract people to South for the program? Well,
I know Coach Wiltz is he's kind of that guy. he walks around the schools in the city, and he really is that recruiter. We feel that we have as good of a academic reputation in the city as anybody
as a parent, I can speak to the intelligence. We have a great academic program.
I have one that graduated from South and one that is at South, and I would. There is no choice of the three schools, in my opinion. Not that there's anything bad about the others, but with the academies that we have at South, sure. I think that has to be part of the recruitment process
Absolutely.
if we want to get those kids in.
Sure. Is that 2 minutes, Calvin, or 20 seconds? 2 minutes? 20 seconds. Okay. I can't hear you, Calvin. But I can't hear Calvin. So I guess we'll just wait for the music to come on. But
2 minutes.
All right. 2 minutes. Thank you, sir. All right. Thanks for bearing with us, Waukesha. So at the beginning, the opening song I forgot to mention was Toots and the Maytals with Willie Nelson doing Still Is Still Moving to Me. And that's our tribute to John Stillman. And I understand from the Facebook post I did yesterday, many of his college friends chimed in, and Stilly was one of your nicknames.
Yes, it was. And if some people that I know from way back when call me anything different, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, love it. And they also mentioned your affection for a band from the 80s known as Queensryche. You still listen to some Queensryche? I'm a child of the 80s, so
when I need to...
I was more of an Iron Maiden guy. But
I was too. We're products of the 80s, so we could probably have a whole different segment on those types of bands. But
well, we plan on having you back in the show for a full hour, so we definitely will dedicate a segment to 80s culture. So
whenever I need a little pick-me-up for a workout, that's probably my go-tos.
Sounds great. So were you at, I know the Krinkles were there. We had the Raise the Bar fundraiser back in, it was right, same night as the Final Four in early April. And after the game, we went to the Steintist when it was still open, and there was an 80s tribute band. The reason we went is a former colleague, a teaching colleague of my wife's, was a drummer in this 80s band, 80s cover band, and they were fantastic. The name escapes me now. Melissa, you better be listening. If you are, please text me the name of Hazlitt's band so we can give them a big plug. I know John Stillman and his wife and his college pals would show up for watching these guys again. So it kills me I can't remember the name. So because we're running down on time here, John. One question Johnny had too was why should kids play sports?
Oh gosh, I could go forever on that, but kids that are in sports become better.
First Wave is the name of that 80s cover band. Thank you, Melissa. Love you.
Sorry, go ahead. If you're not in an activity or sport, in my opinion, I think that you are more likely to be a little undisciplined in every aspect of your life. I know when I was in college or high school, it was.
Sorry, Calvin Stillman, we got to cut to a break, but we'll let you answer that question when we come back. This Week in Waukesha continues. Don't go away.
To face of my conscience, coming to understand of myself.
Welcome back. This continued. John Stillman, Waukesha South football team, and our brand new varsity baseball coach. John, we ended the segment. You're finishing answering the question, like, why do kids play sports? And I want to add something on that, thanks to Mary Krinkle, is how do kids know who to contact about strength training, whether it's football or any sport at South, and what foods to eat?
Yeah, at least at our school, we have a great, energetic, young guy that is our strength and conditioning instructor, supervisor, coach. Jake Rippertella is
Coach Rip for short, right?
Coach Rip, yeah. Right. He is as energetic to get these guys going as anybody I've ever seen. Younger guy. I think I've been married longer than he's been alive, but and he reminds me of that every once in a while. But he handles programs for all of the sports. In fact, when football is over, he and I are going to sit down and map out a course for baseball guys. And even if you're not an athlete, there is weight room's always open to anybody, and
Sure.
he will set aside a program for you just to, if you want to, whatever it is you want to do, mass, strength, lean, he'll figure it out. Yeah, you just have to be able to do it. You just have to be willing to commit to it, and not just every other, every other time you wanna.
And what our son Evan's telling us is that he really feels there's a direct relationship between the strength training and what it's doing for you in school.
Yeah,
and the eating too. It's like we spend a lot of money on eggs more than we used to, but it's he's buying in, and I know he can't be alone. There's other kids that are doing that. And yeah, whether you're on a team or not, I think it's good to do.
From last year to this year, it's night and day. We're stronger. We're not where we want to be yet, but
sure.
It's amazing the gains that when you buy in and you have an off season of conditioning and you have an off season of strength training, you really are not only in a condition to do it, but you have the confidence to say, you know what, I can withstand whatever comes my way.
Sounds great. Hey, real quick, I got a text from Rick Zoom Zamnon, legendary football player for Marshall High School that played against John Matuzak in high school, and he's a listener to the show. Hey, Rick, the show goes until 9, okay? So stick around. But John will only be here till 8:30, so we got to focus on Coach Stillman. And in addition to being a coach and a great athlete, and I'm sure you look like you still are active in sports, and like myself, you're also a teacher, an English teacher.
Correct. 8th grade English in Mukwonago.
In Mukwonago. And what I'm impressed is you're teaching your kids about Shakespeare.
Yeah. In our district, 8th grade is the first time that they're exposed to that. We feel that doing it the right way is less intimidating. Not saying here's the text and go figure it out. But especially the teenage boys, when they think of Shakespeare, there's always a stereotype, I guess, involved. But after the end of the unit, they not only dig it, but they think it's cool that they understand it.
They're using it in the vernacular, having some fun in the hallways. I bet too. Yeah.
There are some pretty witty things that Shakespeare has, and they dig the fact that that Shakespeare has a sense of humor, and sometimes it's not rated G, and they do get a kick out of some things. With that. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's just, there's so many great Shakespeare references that people continue to use at the right time in pop culture. And so, I that's a great...
Well, Shakespeare is just so timeless. I mean, 400 and plus years ago, we're still talking about him because of the story. It doesn't have anything to do with the language so much, but when they figure out that the story that they're reading is just about a guy and a girl who fall in love and bad things happen, they've heard that before and they get it. Yeah. They can relate to it.
They sure can. And even some of the family rivalries or feuds.
Sure.
That's a big thing. Yep. So, because I've fallen in love with Waukesha, one of my jokes is, banishment, be merciful, say death, but there is no world beyond Waukesha walls.
I can't.
I know it's Verona,
good.
But we,
that's pretty good.
So, great stuff. Getting back to baseball, tell me your favorite baseball movie. I know it's a hard one, and there's more than one. That's fine. We've asked Joe Albanese. We asked Coach Don Radomski, who was here a couple weeks ago from North, and we're going to arrange for you guys to meet here on this show closer to the baseball season. So you're not allowed to meet him until on this show. We'll have you guys here together.
All right. There's a couple of different types of baseball movies that I like. I guess I'll always love Bull Durham.
Yeah.
Just for the the irreverence of it.
Yeah.
Major League also because it was filmed in Milwaukee. I know a bunch of guys that were involved with the filming, and I always kick myself for not pursuing being in that movie. Field of Dreams.
Yeah. Did you ever read the book, Shoeless Joe?
I have not.
Yeah, as an English, and you can have your kids read that. That's a great difference between the movie and the book is the James Earl Jones character is actually J.D. Salinger. The catcher in the rye,
the recluse,
reclusive writer, and
Terrence Mann.
The title Catcher in the Rye. So Terrence Mann goes to Ebbett Fields, goes through the cornrows to go to Ebbett Fields, see Jackie Robinson. J.D. Salinger goes back to the Polo Grounds. He was a Giants fan, and in an article he did for Life magazine, they mentioned the book. There were two great tragedies in his life. One is when he realized he wasn't good enough to play pro baseball. and the second is when the Giants left the Polo Grounds in New York to San Francisco.
Okay.
So it's a must-read. Movie's great. It's a classic, no doubt. Great cast, everything.
Well, it sounds
the
like
book by W.P. Kinsella is fantastic.
That it doesn't veer too far away. I mean,
not much.
The regret of not being in the game or having that.
Yep. So, and the whole father-son catch connection. So, Calvin's telling me we have 1 minute left. I know you got a game to catch. What's a message out there for people as to why they should support South football and South athletics?
Well, bias. I always tell people, once a black shirt, always a black shirt. And this school, this program, the city means a lot to me. And I want to instill that pride in our guys so that when they get old like us, and they can look back very fondly on what it is they did. And I always tell kids, too, that you are a better person for having played sports, to getting back to the other question, just because of the friendships that you make and just because of the memories that you'll always have when, like you said, we're old like us and we're kicking around and remember when.
I love it. John Stillman, thanks for joining us today. This Week in Waukesha continues. Good luck to your boys today in the 8th grade team. This Week in Waukesha is back live at the Farmers Market here in the mobile offices of former Alderman Don Brown. And I want a big shout out to Calvin. Thank you for playing Suffragette City from my dearly departed friend David Bowie to honor Waukesha's Suffragette tradition here in September as we approach the anniversary of, I believe it's the 103rd anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Thanks to Waukesha's own Theodore Yaumans, president of the Waukesha Women's Suffrage Movement. And the reason Wisconsin was the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. So proud to honor that heritage. Theodore Yaumans Park is right around the corner from the Walk Radio Studios at 217 Wisconsin Avenue, where our friend Calvin is running the central command there. Calvin, great work you're doing there. And thanks for helping us honor the suffragette tradition. With some elections coming up in November, I encourage everybody, not just the women, after you vote, go on over to Theodore Yaumans Park and do a selfie there next to the sign and show your support for this suffragette tradition. And let's do more to honor that heritage here in our schools and in public. She deserves more than the beautiful little park there across from the Rotunda near the Rochester Deli. So, and now I got Johnny Watermelon back with us. Johnny's been walking the market. Johnny also walked all the way to Stillman Cup to get me my breakfast. So Thank you, Johnny. And Christina Toffey, if you're listening, I hope you're listening. That's the kind of respect the Stillman Cup has. It's dragging people from this market, or they go there first to get their coffee or their sandwich, and then they come back to the farmers market to get their produce. Johnny, what else is going on here?
Got a nice setup there. Well, it's a beautiful day down here at the farmers market. And I just wanted to back up a couple of things that you said there earlier, Don. It's so important to get engaged in the, do your civic responsibility and duty and privilege to get out and vote. Get tuned up on the candidates and express your opinion. It certainly is your right, your privilege to get out and vote, and quite frankly, your responsibility to make sure that those things happen. You get the candidates that you want.
I appreciate that. Hey, and a big shout out to Connor Boston, who is providing some on-site production support. Connor's been really busy with Walk Radio, helping out in a number of ways, as well as running his initiative, Unifica, which is a creative community, shall we say, of different artists doing some really interesting things. But back to your point, Johnny, too, about the importance of voting and really doing a deeper dive into learning more about our candidates. I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. So and I know this is a show about all things Waukesha, but there was a political situation that I think impacts the people of Waukesha directly. Thursday night, as I was enjoying my Buffalo Bills put a beating on the Hollywood Rams on national TV for the whole world to see.
Yeah, ouch.
And it is Josh Allen's world. We just live in it. But we're excited for the Packers tomorrow. I think they may do the same damage on the Vikings out there playing in the cities, I understand. But during the game, some political ads came on, and I know we're getting sick of them. And I want to emphasize, not because we don't love this country and we don't take seriously, but the approach that, let's face it, both sides are taking, and maybe the Republicans are worse, but Ron Johnson runs an ad, and they're attacking his candidate, Mandela Barnes, about being soft on crime. So what do? They talk about the Waukesha Christmas parade attack. They show video. No, prior to the video, they show you a nice picture of the assailant, black gentleman in the orange jumpsuit. So going after everyone's fears and whatever prejudices they have. And then they show the video of the parade attack. You see the vehicle, SUV, I forget what it is. And, of course, it's blacked out when they show them hit the car hitting the people. But people from Waukesha don't want to see that again. I think most Americans, most people from Wisconsin, but especially here in Waukesha, that's your approach to getting people to vote is having us relive that nightmare. I don't speak for the victims' families, but I know many victim survivors. I was in that parade myself, and by the grace of God, I was on my way home when all that took place. But I think that's just poor play for a U.S. Senate candidate to put that in your ads instead of being adults and standing for your record, promoting what it is you felt you achieved for the people of Wisconsin, for the people of this country, instead of going to the lowest common denominator. And to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of the Democrats. As you know, Johnny, I voted for Pete Pekarsky. I thought the party really rogered him in terms of giving him an opportunity to participate in the debates.
Yeah.
And
not a lot of fair play there.
There really wasn't. And that's why you've got a majority of Americans that are just sick and tired of the two-party system. So I was saying hi to my neighbor, John. Yep. John, you missed John Stillman, the new baseball coach. I was going to understand. Yep. So, hey, but this is why I wanted people to call in. And I just, John, no, seriously, I'd love to hear it because I just felt, both sides, let's stand for our records and let's keep like the, right? That we agree on. Exactly. So John's saying, look at how they vote. Look at for the whole. Yeah, exactly. And again, there's no doubt about that. And yeah, there's no dispute there. But, again, I think I don't know if the lieutenant governor is responsible for that. And again, I'd rather stand for a record. If I'm Ron Johnson's campaign manager, he's been in office for 2 terms now. Got a pretty full resume. Accomplished businessman, right? Entrepreneur, you could say. So let's push that because I think there's enough educated people. And when you look at the majority of Americans that don't have a party affiliation, and I'm one of them, and I voted for candidates on both sides. Granted, most of them have been Democrats, but as I was just saying, I didn't like the way Pete Pekarsky was treated. I think Mandela Barnes is a good man. I think Pekarsky had a stronger resume, especially his intelligence and security background. Like, those are the kind of people we should be looking at as serving on a higher level, like an executive for a manufacturing company. But all this, theater, as you said, John. Yeah, it's theater. Yeah, and I think too, you live in Waukesha, you don't want to relive that. And I think there's a better way to sell that story. If that's your way of attracting votes, I think you can do better. And I mention this because Ron Johnson made an effort to be here the next day at the vigil, and he made an effort to actually meet me because I was still alderman, and I was very impressed by that. He had his staff there, and I think he was there in earnest to show support. And I just think, and he may not even know about the ad because there's a lot of campaign, there's a team of people that do that. But yeah. And so, Yeah, but I just think I don't think they need to do that in a close election.
Right.
But yeah, but our neighbor here came to talk about sports, and you were late. I wish you were here with He came for tamales, but did you hear with John Stillman on? Oh, he was on. Did you know him in high school? Okay. Yeah, John would say he graduated in '87. Okay, so a few years ahead. So, but he was there when South, I guess, had gone from the Legion baseball to South had a team. And then he, I believe so, yeah. And then they won a couple playoff games. Senior year, they had a bunch of sophomores, didn't do so well. They did make the playoffs, but those sophomores 2 years later went pretty far in state, which would have been like 3 or 4 years ahead of you. So, yeah, you might have known some of those guys. So, but, hey, thanks for stopping by, John. No, I appreciate it. We wanted to hear that perspective. So, because I think we can do better.
Yeah, I think so too, Don. And I just want to say something here. That, what we've called political theater, unfortunately, human beings kind of react to emotion.
Sure.
They're emotional creatures.
Yeah.
So when you get that kind of theater, let's call it,
Yeah.
there's a reactive to it. Okay.
Sure.
I think you're correct that you kind of got to break down the logic of candidates and their policies and positions, other than this emotional bomb throwing. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm with you there.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's just you live in Wisconsin, you live in Waukesha, and you're hypersensitive to that.
Absolutely.
And for them to relive that. You know, and I'll do one better to show that I'm being objective here is in 2008, when Hillary Clinton was trailing Obama, she made this direct reference to the Robert Kennedy assassination. It was such poor taste, and it was a desperate attempt to try to keep her campaign alive. And she conjured up a lot of bad memories. She was forced to apologize to the family members, Kennedy's children. And again, it happens on both sides. But this latest example, you know, I think Ron Johnson can do better. I think all of our candidates do better. I think the people of Wisconsin deserve a higher level of disseminating information and learn and candidates and campaigns. Talk about what you accomplished, what you plan to do to accomplish, instead of like the whole bashing. I actually brought over here a bunch of I get print materials from both parties, and I think they go after, they get a list of non-registered. They figured out who the non-registered people are.
Yes, they do.
And I get
the same group here.
Yeah, and so I got a mailer here from Ron Johnson. It's, you know, fight inflation. Okay, that's fine. Cut the waste. Defend our jobs. But there was years ago, I saw, when he was still alive, I saw Barry Goldwater and Larry King. Barry Goldwater was one of the standard bearers for the conservative cause. He was good friends with President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy was a Democrat, not a liberal. Actually, a lot of his fiscal policies are more in line with a lot of modern, Republican fiscal policies. But these two were good friends, and had Kennedy lived, it would have been a very close election in '64. And the two had pledged they were going to go out on tour and they were going to debate together. They were going to reinvent Lincoln Douglas, and it was going to be about intelligence and integrity and educating the public. Imagine two candidates being in the same city at the same time. We got 1 minute? Okay. Hey, we're going to go to break, but we'll continue this conversation on This Week in Waukesha live at the Farmers Market. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Calvin.
Twas in another lifetime, one of toil and blood, when blackness was a virtue, the road was full of mud. I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
Hey, we're back. This Week in Waukesha. That was my good friend Robert Zimmerman, who you know, the artist known as Bob Dylan with Shelter from the Storm, one of my favorite songs. Before the break, we were talking about the recent Ron Johnson ad that played the video of the Waukesha parade attack for Waukesha residents to relive. Thank you for that. Just awful. But before the break, we were talking about Barry Goldwater was on Larry King years ago, and he tells the story about how him and John Kennedy, his opponent, in the 1964 election had Kennedy lived. And during that campaign, they were going to tour the country together, appear on the same stage together, and have a debate with civility and integrity. And the intent was to inform people and to increase voter turnout. And with a level of sportsmanship and fair play that would have been a model for future elections. But unfortunately, as we know, Kennedy did not live to participate in the 64 election. And so that never happened. But I would encourage anybody, even, for U.S. Senate campaign, why couldn't Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes hit the road together, show up in the same cities, show civility, show integrity, a level playing field. And maybe it throws some of these campaign finance laws on its head. And, but I just thought it was atrocious. I thought it was in poor play. And, I think we expect more from our elected officials, especially our incumbents in the campaign. And I truly believe you're going to inspire more people to vote than by going to this lowest denominator and appealing to people's fears and their hatred. And then upsetting people in a city that's becoming more and more purple, and where we emphasize common sense. We have nonpartisan elected officials in our city government, and a majority of Americans that do not have a party registration or affiliation. We can do better, and that's what I'm advocating here. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, I got to back you up on a lot of that stuff, Don. I'll tell you a little bit of my history. I came from a fairly conservative background. And I voted Republican for a long, long time. Now I tell you, I'm sick of the shenanigans. Okay, I think there's a lot of dark stuff that's going on in that group, and I'm playing for the other team now. I'm just not in line with a lot of the GOP rhetoric. It just doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm hoping to bring some of my other friends back into that fold. I'll just be very pointed to you. The mega crowd is off the rails. You know, I just can't support that kind of philosophy.
Sure. But here's where, and like I said, so you're on the other team. I'm not quite there yet. I'm on a third team, and that's one that advocates for common sense because, again, as I mentioned, I'm upset that Pete Pekarsky did not get the equal playing field that I felt he should have deserved. Again, I'm very impressed with Mandela Barnes. I was in a Zoom meeting with him. It was when Tom Palzwitz was running for Congress, and I was an alderman. And in a Zoom call, I could feel, Mandela Barnes showed a really great presence. Very, very impressed with him. But I felt that for a position like the U.S. Senate, a guy with Pete Pekarsky's background, his knowledge, working in intelligence, working in security, those are the kind of guys we need at the national level. Mandela Barnes certainly has an exciting future, and I probably will end up voting for him, but I felt honestly in my heart of that deep pool of candidates. I thought Pekarsky was the strongest, and the way that a lot of the top contenders dropped out closer to the campaign, and all the supporters, it feeds to a lot of arguments from the right that the Democratic Party's rigged, and a lot of Bernie people are upset about the way things were handled in 2016. When Obama was running in 2008, the Clinton campaign was doing whatever they could to sabotage his campaign, and similar strategies as what Johnson was doing. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I want to end it with this part of the discussion. With this is just an appeal for civility and common sense, and and having some political courage. With all the money in that the campaign, to let's really educate people. Let's stand behind our records. Let's talk about how we can do better, and not about the fear factor.
Thank you.
It's just so counteractive, and it's just so upsetting.
Civility,
and it's a good segue. The greatest T-shirt in the farmers market today that I saw was a young man with Snoopy lying on multicolored doghouse, and it says chill. And so it's a beautiful day here at the farmers market. I can't wait to get out and get some produce. I know I have to bring some creminis home from a couple of great mushroom guys here. Johnny, who are your picks to click today?
I'll tell you what. I just went over to Bayview Bread, and I bought some cranberry orange walnut bread.
Nice.
I had a piece of it. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
So please, there's a lot of other vendors down here. I saw some guys across the street with some raspberries.
Right.
Now they're going to go here, and I got to get over there in a little bit to get my share if they're not already gone. So please come on down, take a walk around, say hi to some of these vendors, and get some great produce.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, and a lot of great things going on here in Waukesha this weekend, too, with the weather being what it is. I can't wait. And, hey, before I forget, too, our guest next week is Tom Battersby, and he is, I murdered his name last night during the football broadcast. Tom is the band director for the Waukesha North Marching Band, Waukesha North High School Marching Band, which is a great tradition there. They've won some state titles in their day, and even in the current years, they continue to be very successful, very competitive, a joy to watch. And so we're really looking forward to having Tom back on the show on October 15th as we get closer to Halloween. Hey, Alicia Halvin-Slavin with her baby walking by. Her baby cat, Sylvia. It's still your child.
Cat,
yep.
Baby carrier.
So, well, what we now before we were interrupted by Alicia. It wasn't a rude interruption. She was just waving hi. But on October 15th, Jeremy Watson of iCombat Waukesha, an official sponsor of the Blackshirt Football radio broadcast, will be on the show on October 15th to talk about his promotions. Don't worry, we're not supporting him. No, sorry. We're talking about
He's supposed to be
the Halloween promotions he's doing for iCombat Waukesha. So check that out. And on September 24th, if everything works out, we're going to have TJ Stout and his team from Replacement Window Center, Wisconsin, to talk about some opportunities before the snow falls, or even when it does, to make some exterior improvements on your house. So looking forward to having them there. So calendar's filling up here on this week in Waukesha. So here at the farmers market, and if you're just at home having your coffee and you haven't had breakfast yet, or maybe you have, I highly encourage you to come down here. Not as crowded today, which means more opportunity for all of you to come and get some great buys. I just see some vibrant colors. Colors are changing here with the produce too. Very beautiful color. I see some sunflowers. So any special people in your life, get some flowers. Johnny can tell you more about that. Sure. I see some bright red radishes. I do love some radishes on my salad, carrots. It really is a great time to be here at the farmers market. So I encourage all of you to get out.
You know, Don, I want to mention too, Tunderland is going to be having
Tunderland. So Tunderland and Replacement Window Center, Wisconsin, along with iCombat, are official sponsors of the Blackshirt Football radio broadcast. And encourage everybody to listen in and support our men, especially as they're heading into the very difficult Classic 8. Many teams go to die, and they're competing. And they're hanging in there. Difficult loss last night, but they hung tough against Oconomowoc the week before. So check us out on the Blackshirt Football radio broadcast every Friday till the last game on October 14th. Broadcast starts at 6:30. So, but in the meantime here, farmers market looking very vibrant. I know pumpkins will be out soon. I haven't seen them yet, but there's a lot of talk about pumpkins lately. A lot of talk about getting your turkeys early, too, that there's going to be a shortage of them Thanksgiving. So people have to start thinking about them there.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. So in the couple minutes we have, one thing I wanted to mention, too, was we had some it's still beautiful weather and it's still baseball season, but we do have some scores to report here. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we were grateful to have John